One of the institutions you've been very philanthropic with is your alma mater, Harvard. But recently, you've been very public about your criticism of the way Harvard handled the events of October 7th and their aftermath. Could you talk about that now?
The first reaction of a group of 34 Harvard student clubs on the morning after October 7th was to put out a statement saying that Israel was 100% responsible for the acts of Hamas. And my view on that was, that's ridiculous, and that's more than ridiculous, I would say. And these students need to have some, judgment and perspective. You can come out and say, look, I'm very unhappy about Israel's treatment of Palestinians in the West Bank, or you can say, we can talk about the Gaza Strip, but you can't support terrorists, and particularly terrorists that rape and pillage and murder and burn and take hostages. Well, I got actually a text from a CEO in my industry. He's like, Bill, you know the people at Harvard. I'd like to know who the students are behind these clubs so I make sure I don't inadvertently hire them. And so I tweeted out that sort of made that point, and caused a bit of a firestorm, and I got a lot of pushback. Why are you picking on students? And I said, look, you can't hide behind a corporate entity if you're going to support terrorism. That's a major decision. So that was sort of my first initiative, if you will, at Harvard. And then there were protests on campus, and the protests were supportive of terrorism and supportive of things like, when you have a group of students shouting "Intifada, Intifada," let's free Palestine and from the river to the sea. The meaning of Intifada means to kill Jews. When I raised this issue, Harvard said, well, we have a commitment to free speech, and that's why we have to allow this. Well, there's certain speech that is certainly permissible under the First Amendment, and then there's certain speech that I would say is undesirable on a campus.
Have you said you're not going to donate to Harvard anymore, or have you said I'm not going to hire people from these Harvard students anymore, or people like those people?
No. Well, one, we're not going to hire anyone that supports terrorism at Pershing Square. I haven't made any statements about, economic support for Harvard. I want Harvard to do the right thing. I don't want to threaten one way or another. That's not my kind of approach. But I do think Harvard needs to do a deep examination of, one, there's been a meaningful rise in anti-Semitic incidents on campus.
So you're going to continue to be involved in this issue and try to push Harvard to do what you think they should be doing? Absolutely.
I wrote a pretty thoughtful letter that was, I think 25 million people saw it on Twitter. And remarkably, I did not get a response, which to me is a very, very bad and weak approach. Literally no response, no acknowledgement, no, dear Bill, I hear what you're saying, but nothing. So yes, I'm an activist, but my activism today is probably not in the corporate boardroom. It's on campus, and this is not just a Harvard problem. It's an NYU problem, it's a University of Pennsylvania problem. The more I examine the issue, the more woke, the more left-leaning the institution, the more anti-Semitism, which is a very unfortunate thing.